Hey YouTubers! Well, I want to do a video review on a product that I ended up getting just before Christmas. My girlfriend got this for me, and this here is the Ridgid. This is the 18 volt track saw, and this kit here, it comes with the track saw, the two pieces of track, and the battery. And I think it was right at $369. And you know, of course, I did like everybody else does, and got on YouTube and checked out all the videos on the Ridgid track saw, and it got good, you know, reviews and all that. But I'm here to tell you that there's some things that you might not realize when you buy the track saw that, you know, we had to find out the hard way, and it's not as, you know, as good as people say. Now, I have not tested the saw out, but everybody keeps mentioning, oh, this is a great budget track saw and this, that, and the other. Well, yes and no. If you're going to be cutting some, you know, 8-foot length plywood or something like that, then you're going to need some longer track, because with this kit here, it only comes with two 27.5 pieces of track. So that puts you at, I think, 55 inches total. So you'll be able to cross cut a piece of plywood, but you won't be able to cut it long ways. So you know, if you have to buy another piece of track, Ridgid does sell an extra piece of track separately. And they had a special buy on Home Depot's website where you could get two of the 60-inch tracks for $150, or you could just buy one for $100. So I ended up getting two of them. And so, you know, it was kind of aggravating to have to spend another $100 just for an extra track, or $150 for the two. So that was a little aggravating, but whatever. But then there's one thing that aggravated me a little bit further, and I'll just go ahead and put it all out there, because, you know, Ridgid only sends tools to people that, you know, have a lot of subscribers, and, you know, they don't send anything out to the normal guy that actually tell them how it is. They just want to send, you know, their products to the big guys that review all the tools all the time. And of course, they're going to blow smoke up, you know, Ridgid's butt, and I, you know, tell it like it is. So I am. And so anyways, first things first, I have not used this saw yet. I've been waiting to test it out for you guys. And so anyways, the one thing that really aggravated me with this kit here is, you know, Ridgid only gives you one track saw clamp, you know, and so that's a little aggravating, because, you know, obviously you're going to need two clamps. You're going to have one on each side of the track, and if they provide you with just one clamp, that doesn't make any sense at all. So, I mean, come on, Ridgid, that's ridiculous to give one clamp. So I looked on the Home Depot website, and to get an extra clamp, they don't sell just one. They'll sell you two of them for another $50. So think of it this way: you're already in the saw $369, then another $100 for one track, another $150 for two tracks, and then another $50 for two more clamps. So, you know, the price starts climbing. I feel like they kind of nickel and dime you on this, and, you know, they should have just provided an extra clamp. I bought the extra clamps, and I was just like, I got to looking at them, I'm like, wow, they're so chintzy. I mean, they're, you know, not made that great. And so I ended up just returning them to Home Depot, because, you know, I just couldn't see paying $50 for these clamps. And so there's plenty of different options on Amazon. So the clamps that I found were these from a company called Trigon. I found them on Amazon. Never heard of this company before, but I looked through all the clamps on Amazon, and these were just the best looking ones that I have found for my application. Now, personally, these will probably give you a little bit more clamping force because it's that screw style, but, you know, you don't really need that, in my opinion, for just clamping down plywood. These here are rated for like 125 pounds of clamping force, and you can use them one-handed. So you can slide this up and down on the clamp, but then when you want to fasten it down, you can just mash it down like this right here with your thumb, and it locks it in place. And like I said, that's about 125 pounds of clamping force. You know, the way that this clamp works here, it's not a screw type like this one here. It's more of a cam design. And if you want to zoom in right in here, you can see when I go to mash it down, that cam pushes up and pushes the clamp up against your piece of wood that you're clamping it against, and holds it in place. And I mean, these things are super strong. I mean, you're not gonna bend them. And, you know, it comes with two clamps. I think they're like $27 on Amazon. You know, they're $26.50 on Amazon. They got 4.3 out of 5 stars, and they work with pretty much all of your big name track saws. It's got listed on here Craig, Festool, DeWalt, Milwaukee, PowerTech, Win, Makita, and obviously Ridgid. So I can confirm that it fits into the track. You can see right there that it's the same width of bar that fits into the track. And for me, I just like the design of it, and I figured that, you know, it wouldn't leave, you know, a marred area in the wood, you know, that I'm clamping. I know sometimes with these, when you clamp them down really tight, you know, it'll mar that wood up and leave a dent in the wood, where this one here is plastic, and it's got a little soft area right in there. So I don't believe these are going to leave any kind of indentation in the wood. You got 2 of these for $26.50, and they come with little carabiners to hang them up. So I thought, you know, I guess that'll match some of the orange on the Ridgid stuff. To me, it doesn't really matter as long as they work good. So I wanted to bring these to you guys. It'd be a better option than paying $50 for 2 of these. Now, keep in mind also, with the Ridgid ones, you only get 3 inches of area to be able to clamp, where these here from Trigon, you get 5 inches. So, you know, once you open them up and slide them down, you can see you've got a lot more area to clamp. So if you're interested in these Trigon clamps, I'll put a link for these down in the description. So as far as the track and the saw goes, I like the way that it looks. It's got a good look to it. It feels pretty good. And, you know, one of the features, when you go first get the saw, you know, you have to put the blade in it. But one of the features here that I found that was pretty neat is there is a button right in here, and it's pretty much like a lock. And it locks it into a position where you can get to this hex nut right there to put the blade in. So you've got your hex key right in here. It's built into the back of it, so if you want to pull it out, it's kind of locked in there pretty good. It's pretty tight, so you don't lose it, but you can still get it out fairly easy. You can just easily access the bolt right there. So I thought that was pretty neat. Now, when you're done installing the blade and you don't need the saw in that position, all you do is just flip that little switch and then mash down on this button, and it allows you to make a plunge. You see right there. So you can see that it plunges just by controlling that button there, and then you mash this button to unlock it so it plunges all the way down. So the blade that comes with this saw is a 6.5 inch blade that's got the 40 carbide teeth, and then it's a 5/8 arbor. And so pretty much you just put it in like any other saw, slide it in from the bottom there, and then you put your little washer there back in place, and then you just put your bolt right in. And once you go to tighten it up, obviously it's going to start spinning. Well, there's a button right here on the other side that locks it in place to keep it from spinning. It's this one right there where I'm moving my finger. I don't know how well you guys can see that. So once you push that in, it locks that bolt so the blade won't spin while you're trying to tighten it up with the Allen wrench. So before I get to use the saw and test it out, you have to join the 2 pieces of track together. And the way that you do that is there's 2 bars that slide in these tracks here on the bottom. And they've got 4 set screws on this side and 4 set screws on this side. And you slide them right in the middle, so it kind of joins the 2 pieces of track together. And then you take the Allen key that comes on the back of the saw, and you just tighten them down. But make sure the surface that you're working on is really flat and level. And then take you a straight edge, you know, and make sure that there is, you know, no gap between the track right there. Make sure it's nice and straight, so whenever you go to make your cuts, you know, your cuts are going to be nice and straight. Because the next step is you don't just jump in and start cutting. You have to put the track together, then put the saw on top of the track, and you have to cut this little piece of rubber. You have to turn the blade on, get it up to full speed, and shave a little bit of this rubber off, because that is going to act as a guide for your cut line. So when you join these two pieces of track together, you definitely want to make sure that and check it with a level and make sure that it's nice and straight where they join together and they're not off center. Plus, you know, when you're using your track saw and you're pushing it down through there, you don't want it to catch there in the middle. So it's, you know, you need to check and make sure it's straight going, you know, this way. But then also here on the top, you need to check it and make sure there's no hump right in there where they join, or you're going to feel it when you push that track saw through there. Now obviously there's going to be a tiny little bit, but you can definitely check it with a straight edge and make sure that it's not excessive. And then once everything is nice and lined up, then you can go ahead and tighten everything down and make that cut and cut that little rubber strip off. And again, it's very important that you make sure that it's level, because this will be your final cut line. Whatever you cut off this rubber, that's going to be where you line up your marks from here on out to make your cuts. So you got to make sure that that's perfect. So I went ahead and got the sawhorses set up, and I've got a 2x6 here on the bottom, and I just wanted to clamp the track down. And so I'm just gonna hook it right in here like this. I'm gonna pull that clamp all the way up to the 2x6, and then I'm gonna mash it down, and it puts, you know, some pressure on there. And you can see there's not much of the 2x6 on there, but I just wanted to keep it nice and flat up against that 2x6, so when I make my cut and trim that rubber piece off, that it's nice and straight. So come around this other side, you can see right here there is the rubber piece that I'm going to be shaving off. So it says in the manual to turn the motor on and get it revved up, and then slowly plunge it down in and cut that rubber piece off. So that's what we're about to do. Guys, so I gotta say that was kind of a stinky, messy mess. It put those rubber shavings all over, and you can see that it cut a little small piece of that rubber off there. Now it wasn't completely uniform from one end to the other, but we'll see just how straight of a cut it makes and test it out and see if it works like it's supposed to. But I did exactly like the directions said, so we'll see. And you can see right in here it made one hell of a mess, so it'd probably be a good time to pull the old Ridgid blower out and blow this stuff off. All right guys, so I'm fixing to make my first cut with the track saw, and I went ahead and cut the rubber piece as I showed you a second ago. And then now I'm just going to go ahead and do a plunge cut down into this 2x10 here. And I do have it clamped right here on this side, but the 2x10 was a little bit longer than the track, so I've just got this clamp on there just to hold the 2x10 steady on top of the 2x6. And then on this side, you can see that I've got the track clamped with the Trigon clamps, and I've just got it clamped on the 2x10 on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and start out by plunging it once the motor's up to speed. All right, well, my first thoughts on it is it did bog down a little bit. That's just pine, and so you know, I felt like it did bog down. A lot of the reviewers and stuff said that, you know, it seemed to have pretty good power, and it does, but it did seem like it did still bog. Now, I am running the 8 amp hour battery. This is the big boy, and it had a full charge, so this is the biggest battery that I have. They do make a bigger one, but I don't have it yet because they're like 250 bucks. But as you see, it looked like it made a pretty decent cut. Now, it didn't fall off because obviously I said the board was longer than the track and I wanted to do a plunge cut. So I'm just going to break this board off. But I don't see any burn marks anywhere where it cut or any of that. So it looks like it did a pretty decent cut. Now, this is some old wood that's been out in the weather, so it's not the very best, but you can see there ain't any burn marks on that cut there. So it looks pretty good. And I gotta say, I was worried because whenever I trimmed that rubber piece, it seemed like it was a little tighter on this end, like the rubber was cut a little closer to the track on this end than it was on this end. You can see right here that the rubber sticks out past the track probably about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, and then over here on this end it's really close to the track. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's really close. So I was just glad that I didn't nick the track. That was the last thing that I wanted to do, because I'm sure that it would be ruined then. But my first impressions, pretty impressed with it. I mean, it seemed to cut good. I wish it had a little bit more power, but you know, these things get more and more powerful. They come out with different batteries, different motors, and so I think if you're doing just your typical, you know, stuff around the house, and you take your time when you make your cuts like I did, and don't try to force it, just let the motor do the work, I think that it would suffice. Now, also, you can upgrade the blade in it, and it would probably cut a little bit better as well. So that'll probably be the next thing that I do to the saw. But just right out of the box, I think it made a pretty decent cut. But you know, that's my first cut. I've not used it long term, so I'm gonna pretty much wrap this review up. Now, I do stand behind what I said in my review in the very beginning. I wish Ridgid would have added another clamp to the saw. I think that it just only makes common sense, and I don't think that they should nickel and dime, you know, their consumers. What's an extra clamp going to cost them? You know, really, probably maybe another $1. So anyways, that was kind of one thing that kind of pissed me off about getting the track saw and having to buy another clamp. The second thing, you know, they should have made the tracks at least long enough to be able to cut an 8-foot length of plywood. So, you know, if you wanted to make 3 links, or, you know, make them a little bit, each link a little bit longer, so you can get to that 8-foot length. You know, that's just my opinion. But you know, I think it's a good saw. I'm pretty happy with it, and this is an honest review, and I'll update you guys in the description down below if I have any problems with this, and if it's a big problem, then I'll make another video and let you guys know all about it. So there's one last thing that I forgot to mention, and that is, you know, I did a review a while back on the Ridgid auger, the earth auger, the 18-volt earth auger, and I had a lot of Ridgid fanboys hit me up, and they got mad because they didn't like my review because I didn't, you know, say, hey, it's amazing, and, you know, just praise Ridgid right out of the box. Let me go ahead and tell you something. I'm going to do an honest review. If you don't like it, go watch somebody else's channel. I don't care. But if you want to watch an honest review, this is an honest review. Now, I will be honest and say that I have over 90 plus Ridgid tools registered on Ridgid.com. So I am a Ridgid fan. I'm not trying to bash Ridgid, but if I see something that, you know, doesn't make sense, or if I think they're trying to be petty about, I'm going to call it out. And so, you know, don't get the wrong idea. I do love Ridgid tools. I have been buying them for the better part of 20 years. But I am going to speak the truth. I'm not going to blow smoke up nobody's butt, and I'm just going to tell it like it is. So anyways, appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.